This is Chet Holmgren, and I'm down to dunk.
This is AJ Mitchell, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Alex Crusoe, and I'm down to dunk.
It's like baby bottle pop. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is Adam Flagler, and I'm down to dunk.
Hey, it's Isaiah Hartenstein, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Kason Wallace, and I'm down to dunk.
I can't spell Lucas. Hey, how do you spell Lucas? How do you spell Lucas?
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Nikola Topic, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Dylan Jones, and I'm down to dunk. This is Isaiah Joe, and I'm down to dunk.
And there's probably like 50 to 75 Beanie Babies.
Give me like your top 3 Pokemon.
Brother, I can't even name.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
Sometimes the way his brain works is it leaves a lot to be desired.
This is Kenrich Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
Charmander.
Yeah.
Charmander. Or you're more of a Charmeleon guy.
Charmeleon.
This is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
Schlecht. You know what it means? Yeah.
That means like bad.
It means bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's me.
Well, it was a good interview, so it wasn't bad.
J-Dub, year 3, and I'm down to dunk for the 3rd time. Thank you.
Welcome back to Down to Dunk Thunder Podcast. I'm Alex. Andrew's not here. Andrew is on vacation. He's at an Airbnb, and he said he couldn't get connection or something. So I said, fine, Andrew, get out of here. Don't care. Don't even want to talk to you anyways. I'd rather talk to Mr. Rylan Stiles, host of the Lockdown Thunder Podcast. You can listen 5 days a week. 5 days a week?
5 days a week, that's right.
5 days a week on any podcast platform. Also on YouTube. Rylan, thank you so much for joining tonight.
Thanks for having me. I love to be here. Love being on Down to Dunk. I'm excited to pod with you.
And what a treat we have, not for the listeners, but a treat for us in that Thunder basketball is officially back. We got to watch some basketball on our TV screens this week. Now, you didn't did you travel?
I went to Dickies Arena. And
you did?
I did.
Oh, you got to tell us about the experience. Were you sitting next to the 7 guys in cowboy hats on the baseline?
Was not sitting next to those guys, but it was a very, honestly, better than the Smoothie King Center. It was better than an NBA arena that I've been to. So it was a good notch up for Dickies Arena. It was obviously meant more for concerts. There's not even a real upper deck in the arena, so that penalizes them a bit. But
no Loud City.
No Dickies City. I guess the whole thing could be considered Dickies City, but it was a very nice venue, very intimate venue, and it was a basketball game that was played. It wasn't a very fun game, but it was a game.
Well, I love that it was an intimate atmosphere for preseason basketball. The only way you can have it. Got to have an intimate atmosphere. Now, so you were there. This is in Fort Worth. Is that correct?
Yep.
And do any teams play there? I saw the TCU coach was there talking.
Yeah, so TCU doesn't play there. I've actually been to TCU's venue for Kenrich Williams getting his jersey retired.
Oh,
there.
yes.
But the Dallas Wings play there, and Paige Beckers was there. So I think that's kind of what they use it for mainly, on top of they're going to have Rush there in concert at the end of the year.
Okay. Are you headed down for that? Is that why you bring it up?
Yeah, I'm not heading down for that. I bring it up because they ran about 17 ads for Rush in this. The only ads that they had in the arena was get your TCU tickets and we play somewhere else, but still get the tickets here and go see Rush.
Nice. Okay, so we have preseason basketball going on. We've played 2 games. Thunder played in Charlotte earlier this week, and then they played against the Mavs. A back-to-back, grueling schedule. And then tomorrow, which we're recording this on Wednesday night, so tomorrow on Thursday, they play their first home preseason game, also against the Charlotte Hornets. Before we jump into what we've seen so far, could you rank for me in terms of what you would consider real basketball? Okay, I'm going to give you 3 options. I want you to rank them from realest to fakest, okay?
Okay.
Your options are preseason basketball, summer league basketball, and end of March, early April basketball when seeding has already been decided.
Ooh. I mean, end of March has to be number 1 because technically it is regular season basketball.
It does count towards the stats.
It does count toward your standings and stats. Also, like, in the modern NBA, at least, not everything has been decided. You kind of like have the basic idea. You have the gist of what teams are in versus what teams are out. But especially with how competitive the West can be, like the difference of a couple games in March that drops you from the 3 seed to the 4-5 matchup could be a big deal. So there's just more at play. And also it can reinvigorate a fan base. Like if you see, for example, Chicago, Josh Giddey was incredible for the Bulls down the stretch in March. That can give them something to cling to. You're in desperate times if you're clinging to Summer League and preseason. So for that reason, I'll put that at number 1. Number 2, though, is tough because there's a right way and a wrong way to do both Summer League and the preseason.
Yeah.
And I think if you do Summer League the right way as a team, it can actually be more beneficial than preseason if you do preseason the wrong way, which is like you see the Thunder these first 2 games. They haven't played in an NBA city yet. Thursday's their first game in an actual NBA venue. And they've sat 10 and 12 guys respectively in these first 2 games, to where if you fill out a Summer League roster with a bunch of fun young talent who are draft picks, who are fringe undrafted and trying to make it and G League caliber guys all in one, you actually kind of can get more talent level there, because even though you did see some of the Thunder guys play, the preseason was clearly going through the motions. There's also just something about Summer League where, at least for some of the fan bases, you are excited to see new guys, and you're excited to see young guys as like your future. Like you can think back to a few Summer Leagues for the Thunder that was pretty interesting. I think in the once you get here, it's like, you have 82 games of this coming up, and you watch the first preseason game and you're like, yes, basketball's back. But then you quickly want to be like, okay, let's get to October 21st already. Let's kind of go. Whereas in Summer League, if you rush it away, you're out for a long time. So I'll go Summer League 2, preseason 3.
Yeah, I would say it'd be the first half of the first preseason game.
Yes, you're amped. And if it was this year, you couldn't watch it on the Thunder app. That was an adventure.
Yeah, so it's interesting because you would think, like, I'm thinking about a rookie having a bad game. If a rookie has a bad game in Summer League, you're going to hear about it. Everyone's talking about it. If a rookie has a bad game in a preseason game against actual NBA players, I feel like you might not even hear about it. Because everyone's not like tuned into the preseason the way that everyone is in the dog days of summer. So, and you mentioned how the Thunder haven't really taken this preseason seriously so far, sitting a lot of players. I thought that Thunder fans have kind of gotten both sides, or the two extremes of like, does preseason matter? Because you play that game with your third stringers against the first stringers of Charlotte, and you're like, oh my gosh, we are so deep, we are so good, like, this is amazing. And then you play a team that is much deeper, much more talented, actually playing defense, and then it's like, okay, well, that didn't matter. That Dallas game was stupid. That wasn't even, there wasn't even point in watching that. Let's go back, though, to the Charlotte game, because the Charlotte game is the only game we are going to get to see Nikola Topic for the foreseeable future, because he had a testicular surgery, and it's announced. This was announced shortly after the Charlotte game, and he is going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. So the earliest we're going to see him is probably going to be a few weeks into the season. So this was our first and only chance to see him play against all NBA players. Did you have any impressions of Topic in that first game?
Yeah, I thought that Nikola Topic in that first game, he did a lot of things well, in the sense of he's clearly one of the most talented passers on this team, and he's the most talented passer from a guard position on this team, and that's important. But he also has limitations defensively. He has limitations trying to play off the ball. But I love the fact that he was willing to try. We've seen guys in the past, like not even in these low leverage situations like Summer League and preseason, not even attempt to do something that they're bad at. For example, like him taking off the dribble jumpers. That's not a part of who he is as a player yet. And they hope it is one day, but it's not right now. And he was still confident and willing to take those opportunities head on. He knocked down one at the elbow after the J. Will screen that set him up nicely there. But because he was so willing to explore his game, I said after that game on Lockdown Thunder that I would like to see him play in the G League a lot, because that's where you're going to be able to, at least for the first half of the season, that is, play in the G League, because you're going to be able to do more of that stuff and try to develop that as a part of who you are. You look back at J. Will, he spent the first half of his rookie season in the G League, and he was a completely different player by January, when the team really needed him as their starting center to make a postseason push, and they accomplished that goal of getting into the play-in. So, and then we got the news of the injury that this now brings up a whole nother topic of, He's coming off of an injury. Do you want to put him in spot minutes at the NBA? Do you want to put him in the G League? What they do with him from this point forward will be very interesting. But as far as he individually goes, there's clearly a lot to clean up as a rookie. But on the surface level, he at least did the things we've been told that he's great at a high level.
Yeah, I thought he looked really good in transition. I thought that the idea of what he could bring this team was very apparent in transition because he was very aggressive, pushing the ball up the court, either passing to wide open shooters or he had a really nice drive to the rim on one of those transition plays. I really liked what I saw in transition. In the half court, there were moments, and of course, I don't know what they were telling him to do, but there were moments where I did feel like he was settling for that shot a little bit because going back, I mean, the comparison to Giddey is going to be there until it is not there. And I couldn't help but think of Giddey on some of those screens where he comes off the screen and he's just, he's showing no interest in like driving to the rim. There's no chance that he's going to challenge this defender in any way. And then he passes back to whoever the big that screen for him was. And I just remember that being like a very common play for Giddey early on. And there was a moment where he was matched up against the center, Moussa Diabate, and it didn't even look like he was thinking about trying to take him off the dribble. And I feel like that, at least as a prospect, that was one of the things that got you excited in comparison to someone like Giddey, where it's like, hey, this guy, he gets to the rim. Like this guy can get to the rim. This guy can finish around the rim. And I just wanted to see a little bit more of that. But there's also the chance that coaches were telling him, like, we want you to try to get more comfortable taking these long range shots. And so I don't want to base too much on a single preseason game, but it's just one of those things that I would like to see more from him going forward is getting to the rim, being more aggressive as we saw in transition.
Yeah, and getting to the rim also allows him to do what he's best at in playmaking. Because if you've proven yourself as a guy who can get downhill, it changes how defenses react to you. Which then, for example, AJ Mitchell, who was relentless downhill until he got hurt last year, and got to the free throw line plenty, scored at the rim plenty, but then it also allowed him to drive and kick, and that made him look better as a playmaker. So I think that is a big point of emphasis for Topic, and at least it should be in his developmental track, because that's also, to me, easier than envisioning him becoming a legitimate shooter, either off the dribble or off the catch. Like that's an easier way that he can become a more dimensional offensive player, because we've at least seen him in certain settings play well at the rim. I think that he played pretty well at the rim in Summer League. I think that he played well at the rim as a prospect, which is why he got a better reputation of that than Josh had coming out. So I do think that has to be baked into who he is.
Yeah. And then the other, the other most exciting thing from the two preseason games so far is getting to watch more Brooks Barnhizer, getting to see Brooks for the first time against some NBA competition. And I would say defensively, I mean, everything that you would hope for, like you can totally see the vision of what they want Brooks Barnhizer to be down the road, because it a bunch of little things like him hanging out in passing lanes, him using his hands to get deflections. I think he have 4 steals in the Charlotte game.
Yeah, 4 steals on a block.
Yeah, and I thought the way he closed down 3-point shooters without fouling was really good. And so I think defensively, it all makes sense. Offensively, like his shot obviously it's not great. It's not great. And it's hard for me not to think about, if we're trying to imagine him in this like Lou Dort pathway, because I remember the way we talked about Lou Dort's shot his rookie season. And it was like, man, is this guy ever going to be able to shoot? Teams are just going to, when we get to the playoffs, teams are going to let him shoot the entire game, which turns out that is what happened. But eventually he figured it out, but it took several years. And I just wonder, like, will Brooks, I mean, I know he won't get that opportunity that Lou Dort got. I mean, Lou Dort got to play a ton of minutes shooting in real game situations and eventually developed into a real shooter. It's hard for me to imagine, like, how is this going to happen for Brooks, where he can develop this shot? I mean, he might not have the shot he's going to have in the NBA for like 3 seasons. Like, it may be a minute of him developing, because it takes a lot of guys. I mean, it took Lou Dort, I feel like, a while before we could trust him as a shooter. So what do you think about his offense, both the shooting and outside of the shooting, what he could potentially bring to this team?
Yeah, it's going to have to take time. And obviously Chip England being in OKC is a big deal. And he works very intimately with the Blue guys as well as the Thunder guys. So that helps his case very much. But to me, the shooting would be the last thing to come around for him, because I believe he's going to have to rework a lot of what that jump shot is. Like that hitch in his shot is a big deal. And so with Brooks Barnhizer, how else can he impact the game offensively? Because as a defender, he's NBA caliber right now, and he's the kind of defender that Mark in particular loves to put on the floor. But how can you justify putting him on the floor offensively? He's going to have to be better as a cutter. There was a couple cuts in these two games where he made the right decision. He moved in the right direction, and with enough explosiveness to get past his guy, his head wasn't around to the basketball to even receive the ball. So like then it was kind of useless at that point on the cut. But he did show a lot in these first two games as a connective playmaker. And so that could be his avenue as a really nice guy to keep the ball in rhythm. And then if you get lucky and catch a three or so every now and again, that's going to be enough, I think, because even in the most idealistic world for him in the NBA for the short term, it's going to happen in 5 to 10 minutes a night, and of that time, if he's able to spark transition opportunities in those 5 to 10 minutes and limit the half court opportunities even more so, then he's really maximized what he is as a player, because in transition, he fills the lane correctly and he's able to create space in that way. And on the ball, I would trust him to push the pace. So I think that for Brooks Barnhizer, he's going to need to be better as a cutter, but that's another hiccup, because if you're not shooting the ball very well and the game does slow into a half court pace, well, then guess what? They're just not going to be defending you. They're going to be in the paint on you, and that limits your ability to cut. So he did show a lot in the mid range as a prospect. I will give him that, but it's harder to get into the mid range and find your shot in the mid range whenever you don't have the ball in your hands. So how can they utilize that? How can they blend that into what they do is a big question mark. But I do think that there's going to be ways for them to get that done.
Yeah, and you mentioned like 5 to 10 minutes at a time, which is probably the reality for what is going to be available for Barnhizer. And I think of a comparison point of Oos, because like Oos, at least for this upcoming season, until he's not on this roster, like he's would probably be somebody in competition for those 5 to 10 minutes, those scraps of minutes for this championship team. And I thought he was really impressive in the Charlotte game. Like the shot looks pretty good. I was impressed. And then I feel like with the Dallas game, a lot of the things that bothered me about Oos previously came back to the fore. There was one sequence in particular where he gives up the ball too easy, just with poor ball handling. And then they get a fast break. Mavs get a fast break, and he goes down, and he has a chance to like contest the shot, but he doesn't like really contest it. He just kind of bumps into the guy, fouls him. Guy goes to the line. And as a point of comparison, like Barnhizer is so much more physical than I've ever seen Oos be. But on the other hand, you see like that shot from Oos and you're like, man, is there something possibly maybe there? I mean, it does look a lot smoother than it has looked through his first couple seasons in the league.
Yeah, you guys have done before about if you could blend guys together on each roster, like what would you blend? If you could just put the physicality and the force that Brooks Barnhizer plays with and the motor that he plays with into Ousmane Dieng, you'd have a really good player. But the problem is you don't have Oos's jump shot for Brooks, and you don't have Brooks's heart, motor, physicality into Oos. And I think that it was a bit disappointing to see what he did Monday on the second night of back-to-back. Can't forget that.
That's true.
It was the second night of back-to-back, but still, in that game, he had just on Sunday played the very first game in which for 48 minutes, I never once questioned his force. And that's the big word that the Blue used with him and the Thunder used with him since the day that they drafted him. I didn't once question that on either end on Sunday. Monday, though, a lot of those questions creeped up. And on Monday, you needed him to be a bigger impact player because of the lack of availability around this roster. And for a guy who has to shed a lot of that negativity to stay on this roster, like Sunday was a great first step in what's going to be a marathon of him trying to reshape his image for this team. And on Monday, he didn't do enough to take another step forward. It's just a lot hinging on that Sunday performance. So that's the struggle with Oos, is that clearly there's talent in there. Clearly there's a workable NBA rotational player in there. And that's what the Thunder have seen for a long time. But the consistency's not there. And the consistency, honestly, isn't there a lot in the G League either. He of course has better success in the G League because of his overall raw talent. But when it comes to consistently mixing it up on the glass, consistently contesting at the rim, consistently putting bodies on guys on drivers and cutters, it's not always there in the G League either. And so he needs to find that level of consistency to turn himself into an NBA rotational player. And I think that still, even after the opening 2 preseason games, his most likely track is that by the trade deadline, you trade him to a team for a second round pick, and then they talk themselves into, well, yeah, but he's never gotten NBA reps, and we don't really care what's going to happen in these NBA reps for the rest of March and Mickey Mouse March and April. As we've discussed, like, so they should let him have a long leash and see what he is, because if he has a nice Mickey Mouse March, we just saw what restricted free agency is in the NBA. He's not going to get a outpriced for whatever team trades for him. They're going to get him on a very team-friendly deal and still try to work with him in that regard. So I think that that's still the most likely path for him. But at least Sunday, there was a lot of positives to take from his game.
Hey, I would love a Oos revenge game in March. Coming back to dominate OKC. OKC's got the 1 seed locked up at this point, and Oos is coming back into town to take revenge. That would be great. I would love that. Okay, so that Charlotte game was, I mean, you watched it. You were listening to the announcers. Now, what do you think is more important, a Lowe's home improvement 3-pointer or a Dr. Pepper dunk? Which gets you more hyped?
A Dr. Pepper dunk. I like the quasi alliteration. I like the Dr. Pepper brand more than I like Lowe's. I will say you got treated to a better broadcast because we just had and locally we just had a app only stream, which the app was frankly a mess for the first half of that game. However, we did get Matt Pinto on the call. Yeah, the app was bad. Like at first, nobody could log into it because the watch button was broken. So then I had to explain, like, hey, just click on the banner that says watch. Don't click on the watch button, which is hard to get out to the masses, not to click on the tempting watch button. Then you'd load into the app, and you could only watch it on your phone. They didn't stream it on their Roku app. They didn't stream it on their website. So then I tried to download the Thunder app on my computer, and I thought I had found a workaround. But then whenever you hit full screen, it still only gave you a phone-sized version of full screen. But then second quarter, midway through, I figured out how to aircast it to my television, and it was all right. But yeah, the app was not great. We did hear Pinto. I know that Brett and you and people outside of this market got to watch the League Pass version, which was seemingly a lot better. But Matt Pinto did not have any of the Dr. Pepper dunks on his call. He just had his Thunder money balls.
Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah, if people don't know, the Charlotte Hornets this season have gotten individual shot types. They have advertisers now. So I only heard
broadcaster's
2.
worst nightmare. We have those for the county tournament in Lawton, Oklahoma, and so I have the Walters Co-op 3. The
Walters Co-op 3?
Oh, dude, it's tough.
A mouthful.
It's a mouthful. I will say, without the shot clock and the county tournament being like 1A high schools in Oklahoma, the pace of play is not very fast. So you have enough time to say the Walters Co-op 3. But reworking the Walters Co-op 3 into what you're broadcasting, we have a charity stripe sponsor. We have a lot of we have a sponsor for literally everything, and it is thank you to the sponsors, but it's also a mouthful for the broadcasters.
Yeah, I feel like a Bluebell, like that would be a fun one to say. I don't know what like a Bluebell bucket or whatever. That would be a fun one. But Walters,
I've never
Walters
seen an NBA team
Co-op.
do this though. Like this is like a high school broadcast type of operation to have a sponsor for everything.
And I would say it was aggressive. It's not like it was a one-off. Like that's the Dr. Pepper dunk of the night. No, every dunk is a Dr. Pepper dunk. Every 3 is a Lowe's 3. So I'm just hopeful they start adding more shot types. Get something for a layup.
They get Pinto a Brahms whatever of the game.
Yeah, you really want it to have some alliteration, like
what would be a Brahms
frozen custard floater?
Oh,
fun to say.
Every floater to have to do Freddie's frozen custard floater of the game. Oh, that'd be sick.
But yeah, Charlotte, they're probably not a good team. I did see a lot of people saying, "Oh my gosh, this is like season's over for Charlotte if they're losing to the third stringers." I will say, the Nuggets, their starters lost to like the Wolves third stringers, so it's not that big of a deal. And I did think there were moments where you saw like LaMelo and Concanipple, and you're like, okay, there might be like something here. Like I love the way Con's moving off ball. LaMelo's going to find him no matter what. I'm still semi-interested in that team. But yeah, I could imagine as a Hornets fan coming off last season, you had this like really nice draft class that people are like, across the league are kind of respecting. They're saying, oh, Charlotte seems to be doing the right things. And then you come out in your first preseason game near home and you have that kind of showing. It is, I could imagine it being kind of disappointing, but
it's got to be disappointing because like the fact that they lost, and they also just, whenever they played their regular rotation, which they only were missing Grant Williams and Josh Green, which should not be the difference in a Aaron Wiggins led matchup. And they just looked despondent during the game from the opening tip-off. LaMelo Ball, just wherever he got the ball, he just launched up a three and kind of went about his day. And, after the season that you had, have you really earned that level of disinterest in the preseason opener in front of a non-NBA city that you're trying to expand your footprint into? I don't know. Maybe you have, but I can see where that would be frustrating for Charlotte.
I think some of those fans might have run out and got an Aaron Wiggins jersey the way he was playing.
There was a little kid in that building that had never seen the NBA before who thinks Aaron Wiggins is the best player ever.
And you know what? He's right.
He is right. He saved basketball.
What'd you think? I mean, it's funny thinking about how I've been contemplating this upcoming season, which players are going to get better, which players, thinking about the rookies coming in, where are they going to find minutes. I just haven't been thinking about Wiggins a lot, frankly, because he's just part of the rotation. I feel pretty good about what he is. But there are these moments, and that game was an example of it, where it's like, maybe I have it. Maybe I need to reconsider. Like, maybe Wiggins could be better. Like, what if Wiggins is better? I've been focusing on guys like Chet. What is Chet going to do offensively? But it would be massive if Aaron Wiggins came in and could be basically the version of him that he was in the spring. Prior to the playoffs. Now he had some nice playoff moments, but it was up and down. But you see a game like that, and you're like, man, like what he could be a sixth man, like at least in like the traditional way we think of a sixth man, coming off the bench getting buckets. Do you think there's a possibility that we see like a Aaron Wiggins leap? I mean, he's still a relatively young guy, and by leap I mean like consistency, not like he's going to be an all-star or something.
Yeah, the leap is relative. I think that the leap is baked into his own development on the opposite end, though. I think that he's already the third best shot creator on this team behind J-Dub. As a guy who you would trust with the ball in their hand to go get to open space and go finish, I would trust him the most besides those two guys on this roster right now. The problem, though, is I think that Wiggins is a good defender whenever he defends guards and he gets to defend a more comfortable position for him. I think he's a pretty below average defender when he has to defend bigger forwards. While he does compete, he doesn't have a ton of production. And he's admitted, like I've asked him about it, and he said he's not comfortable defending bigger bodies. Well, you're going to have to with the way that this team is structured, with the way that this team operates. So if he is just more able to stand up to bigger forwards, and he doesn't have to shut them down, he doesn't need to become an all defensive guy, but if he can just impede bigger forwards enough to allow the rest of the elite defenders around him to react and shut down that possession, then he stays on the floor more. And if he stays on the floor more, and he's just a constant of he is getting the sixth most minutes on this team or the seventh most minutes on this team, then he's going to have the offensive success. And it's going to look like on the outside looking in, who doesn't know that it's really baked into his defensive progression, it's going to look like he's taken a leap because he just gets on the floor more and stays on the floor more, but it's all baked into what he does on the defensive end to me.
So do you feel like he is one off-season muscle watch away from being the fully realized version of Aaron Wiggins? Like, would he just need to bulk up in that scenario? Because I mean, sounds like he's not ready yet, or he doesn't feel like he's ready yet.
Yeah, we didn't get to see it a ton against Charlotte because they just didn't have a bigger forward to really watch him go defend, and he was playing a different position because of all the people who are out. But even if it's just, you think of how the lineups can work around Wiggins. If you're just going to have him share the floor with at least one of Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren in that paint, then he can just be a nuisance, kind of like in the Isaiah Joe mold. Like Isaiah Joe doesn't shut anybody down, and he doesn't just take away possessions, but he's always on your hip, and he's going to make life difficult on you. So I don't know that it's going to have to be so much about gaining muscle, but there's not a ton of guys who back him down, but there are a ton of guys like Gordon and like PJ Washington and like this archetype of big wings that can go over the top of him and that can go through him. Can he figure out a way to not just get blown by and to not just have himself open up on those drives and at least stay in front of his man until you funnel him into a rim protector? And for him, it's been a kind of a combination of the things. He can't physically not get ran through by bigger forwards, and there's been lineups where he doesn't share the floor with a true rim protector, so there's no one to funnel him into. So I think that part of it is the lineups around him, and part of it is on him. But it wouldn't hurt to see him stand to gain some muscle.
Yeah, you mentioned funneling into a shot blocker. He did play a lot with Jay Will, and we got to see skinny Jay Will for the first time, and he is looking. I would say he's looking pretty slim. He was looking slimmer than he was last year. The game against Charlotte, I mean, it looked like, the jumper was just like so pure. You're like, oh my gosh, maybe that post All-Star break Jay Will is real, and if that's real, if that's anywhere close to being real, that is crazy because he was like a 50-something% 3-point shooter. Did you notice anything else, like any good things as a result of him slimming down? Like, did you feel like he was a little bit quicker on the defensive end in any way?
Yeah, it's a very small sample size, but I did think that he was better whenever he got switched, around the free throw line extended to defend guys out in space, just a little bit better in that regard. And I don't think he lost any of the sure, strength of his. And I think he did a good job of balancing, not losing strength while also slimming down, because you saw what he's able to do on these screens that he set over the last couple of games. That still leads you to believe that he's going to be impactful. He still took the toll of taking a charge in each of the first 2 games. But with Jay Will slimming down, he mentioned that the biggest aspect for that can come offensively whenever the league kind of catches up to him. Because right now he's a good 3-point shooter, and we know that he can shoot, but the rest of the league does not treat him like a 3-point shooter. The rest of the league just kind of lets him shoot. And so he believes that this can really help him whenever he's trying to play off the catch and guys fly out to the 3-point line, run him off the line, and he can then tap into either his rim finishing ability or his playmaking and keep this offense in a groove, compared to right now, or even in the preseason, like even against Charlotte, whenever he's one of the only capable NBA guys on the floor and one of the only guys knocking down shots at a high clip, they still didn't react to him overly heavily against the Hornets on Sunday. So whenever that change happens, I'm interested to see if he can play off the catch more, because we've also seen him have some crazy rim finishes. Like, you remember the Dr. J reverse layup that he hit? Like, so maybe there's something there. But overall, I think that if you don't want to get too into the weeds, I wouldn't look anything into it at all. Then I think that the only changes will be in the very, very nitty gritty of this thing. I saw some concern of like, well, can he still defend Jokic because he lost 6 pounds? Like, he's still going to be able to stand up in the post against those guys, I think, but it just enhances his game a little bit.
You mentioned you thought Aaron Wiggins was like the 3rd best creator on the team, which I will say is one of those things that if they hadn't just won the championship would sound like a terrifying thing. Like, oh my gosh, Aaron Wiggins is the 3rd best, but they just won a title, and that might have been true during that run. So what we saw in the Dallas game, though, was a just complete lack of anyone on the court who could create for themselves. I mean, no Wiggins in that game, no Topic, AJ Mitchell. And so you had this like really small lineup against one of the biggest teams in the league, like just a giant team with their front court plus Cooper Flag. And it was an opportunity for Cason Wallace, who we didn't see against Charlotte. He came back and played against Dallas, and we kind of got to see some flashes of Cason as lead guard, which I don't know how to feel about it, because I read some Thunder fans who, they watch it and they get disappointed, and I understand it. On the other hand, like, I don't really feel like at this point, I don't really feel like the Cason Wallace is heading towards that, or ever was heading towards that. He's going to be a different type of player, so I don't want to judge him too harshly for him trying to play this role that he's probably never going to play in the NBA as long as everyone else on the team is healthy. That said, I will say early in that game, I felt like he was making solid passes. Like the very first pass he made was this cross-court pass to Jay Will, wide open 3. Jay Will just clanked it, and that was kind of the story of that game, especially compared to Charlotte. And I thought Cason was like fine. Like I didn't think he showed anything that made me feel like, oh my gosh, there's this like super high upside on-ball creator player here. But on the other hand, like, as like a tertiary ball handler every once in a while, like, yeah, maybe he could grow into that role. Did you see anything from Cason that either got you excited or disappointed or anything like that in that game against Dallas?
Yeah, I think that your opinion of Cason Wallace as a point guard is oftentimes going to be tied to your opinion of Isaiah Hartenstein as a shooter. It's like, if you still thought that he could develop into a point guard, you probably still thought that Isaiah Hartenstein could shoot, and thus you were a little disappointed when everyone 0 for 22. So, but it's like, that's not going to be who these guys are. It's not going to be these guys' identity. And I thought that last year you saw Cason take a step forward as a complementary playmaker. Like, he obviously wasn't dominating the basketball. He obviously wasn't initiating a ton, but he was able to play off the catch really well as a playmaker, and was able to make good decisions as a playmaker. And that's much of the same of what he did on Monday. Now, Monday, it was a point Cason experiment, and he has a point guard history in his background. So that's kind of led people to believe he could become a point guard in the NBA. He's not going to be an NBA level point guard. And Monday is also not the thing that's going to tell you that, because Monday they didn't have any sort of offense around him. You mentioned how much that they clanked threes, bad spacing, very big team. But I was encouraged by, on Monday, his ability to drive to the rim, because every time he got Dwight Powell switched on to him, every time he got a big switched on to him, he attacked the rim. And there was one time where he settled for a floater, but other than that, it was very much, explosive and straight line drives, getting right to the cup. And that's one area that if he can do that consistently, and particularly off the catch, and not settle for the floater as much, even though he works the floater fine, I think he's going to be even better if he just goes hard at the rim. And he did that more Monday than I think that he has previous in his career. So I do take that away as a positive. But the point guard stuff, he's not going to be a point guard, and Monday was not a point guard friendly setting.
Yeah, it wasn't an anything friendly setting. I mean, there were so many times on defense where, just by order of elimination, a small guy was matched up against like Cooper Flagg, or there was a point where Cason was going up against Anthony Davis, and they're like trying to figure out a way to switch out of it, and it ends up as a wide open Clay 3 in the corner as they're trying to switch out of it. So yeah, it was not a perfect game, and of course it was Dallas that we were playing. I saw maybe the funniest reply I've ever seen from an opposing fan base. I was in like the post game Reddit thread, and there were some Thunder fans, talking about how this game really doesn't mean anything. All the people were there was a Mavs fan who came in and just wrote "Cope,
Wow.
why don't you cry about it? Cope, Cope, just admit you guys suck. It's the preseason. You suck. You lost to us." I shout out to that Mavs fan for just being on it already. October 6th, October 7th, they're ready to go. I really hope we beat that team. I hope we destroy that team. I do not like them.
This is a fun rivalry, though. It's a fun rivalry on the court.
It's
off
not
the court.
fun because now they're not at our level. Like previously with Luka, it was like, okay, these teams theoretically are like pretty close to each other. They could meet in the playoffs, which they eventually did. Now it's like, if we lose, it's kind of like when you lost to Houston a few years ago. It's like there's nothing here. It's only sadness. And if you beat them, it doesn't matter. And I feel like that's the point we are, at least until this Dallas team shows that they're better than their over-under. I mean, I think they're currently projected to be like a slightly better than 500 team, which I think is interesting. But whatever. I think they look fine. And if all their bigs stay healthy, they are going to be a pain to play against, because they just have a ton of size everywhere. So shout out to them. Okay, anything else that I didn't mention? You have any like crazy Leon's thoughts? You have any
Leon's thoughts? That's really scratching the bottom of the barrel on the preseason notebook. I think that Leon's should not be in consideration for the two-way. And now I say this. Oh,
there we go. I didn't mention Chris Youngblood. There we go.
I say this with all due respect of the third two-way. If they did give it to Leon's, I'm not going to have a whole podcast dedicated to ripping on that move. I wouldn't do it, but to me, Leon's is just a guy who he can play bigger than he is, and he's a scrappy rebounder for his size, and that's the end of the list of like things that he does at an NBA level. And that is from watching every single possession of his G League career and every single possession of his NBA career and his prospect film. He's just not. There's just nothing there. He's an exceptionally nice guy. Love him as a human being. And I think that motor and hustle is big for their development in the G League. But as far as like trying to find something with the third two-way guy, it's not going to be Leon's. Gortman's a fun player to watch. He led the Legends in points per game last year, and there's a reason why they traded for his G League rights. But they already have his G League rights. So why would you put him on a two-way deal? That'd be kind of like expending assets for no reason, even though they are G League assets. But expending assets for no reason if you were just going to sign him to a two-way deal anyway. And that leads us to Chris Youngblood, who is my guy for the two-way spot. Now they can also go external and grab guys from other organizations. That's how they got Brendan Carlson. They just signed him from the Raptors 405 onto a two-way deal. So it's not kind of limited to just one of these guys on the training camp deal. We didn't even mention Zach Austin's name for good reason. But with Chris Youngblood, to me, he's the best of both worlds. Like he fits what a third two-way guy is, which is he has an NBA skill with his three-point shooting. And the most I could see happening at an NBA perspective would be how we know that Mark loves to, at the last dead ball of the quarters, put in shooters and just try to steal a possession away. He fits that mold of like a Lindy, Adam Flagler type of guy who's able to do that. His three-point shooting also, I think that he's one of the best. Honestly, this is the only sad statement of the pod so far. I think that he's at worst the second and probably the first best player at movement three-point shooting and relocating as a three-point shooter and the quick trigger that he has. So that's really good. But again, it's not going to factor into a 68-win team's regular season all too much as a third two-way guy. However, if you at all believe that there's a chance that Nikola Topic plays for the Blue this year, a game, 2 games, a week, 2 weeks, if you believe that there's a possibility, then he needs to be a part of the Blue. He needs to be a part of the G League because it's just so much cleaner to evaluate what Topic can do if he's surrounded by a lineup that's Brandon Carlson, a shooter from the big man spot, which he's going to be familiar with it once he plays at the NBA level, a shooter in Chris Youngblood, Brooks Barnhizer, and then throw in a G League guy that you have for the Blue, maybe Leones, maybe whoever, who you still own the rights to. But it just makes it so much simpler because quickly, with the way that the G League rights change and the roster changes over, you could run into a situation where you're trying to develop players and the spacing, the environment, the teammates around them make it too hard to accomplish that goal. Chris Youngblood is a developmental helper, and you need those guys. If at all you think there's going to be a single second where Topic plays for the Blue. And I think that from that standpoint and the NBA standpoint, he's a no-brainer for the third two-way guy.
I like that because you can almost make some if you squint your eyes, like for like comparisons, like, okay, Brandon Carlson is the Chet on this team. Yeah. We got Barnhizer as the Dort on this team. Youngblood can be the Isaiah Joe. And we saw how important guys like Mike Muscala were for some of the development of during those dark years, during the tanking years, having a shooter who can space the floor at the big man position. I mean, that's huge. And so I like that idea. And I'm kind of with you, the rest of Youngblood's game, I don't really have a strong opinion of. Barnhizer, you see him, and it's like, man, on this one side of the court, he already fits in to everything you would imagine a Thunder player would look like. And maybe I should give Youngblood the benefit of the doubt there to say on the other side of the court, Youngblood kind of fits in with that. But outside of his shooting, I'm just still not sure what that path would look like. But that's why you'd be on a third two-way spot and see what he's got. So I'm into that too. Shea seems to be in it too. Shea posted I think it was an Instagram photo of him wearing a Chris Youngblood jersey, which looked very cool.
I think that the coolness factor is more so why he took that picture. I think that if it was Chris Smith's jersey, he probably wouldn't be wearing a Chris Smith jersey.
Yeah, I was gonna say even a Barnhizer jersey doesn't go quite as hard as a Youngblood jersey. It just looks very cool. So that's reason alone, I would say.
Yeah, gonna sell you some jerseys.
So tomorrow, first game at home, you'll be there.
I'll be there.
You'll be there. Are you expecting we'll see something closer to a maybe? Will they throw us a few more regular rotation players to watch?
Well, I think they're gonna have to, because you look at how they had 9 guys on the floor, and you saw Kaysen Wallace got hit in the eye. Jay Will had to work out a leg issue in the first quarter. Usman Jane came up lame with a wrist at the end of that game. They're gonna have to extend this roster out a little bit. If I was just completely guessing, which I am, this is just a complete and total guess, it would make sense to play your guys in this game. You're at home. They didn't have to travel. They've actually had a lot of days off because they, of course, had Tuesday off after a back-to-back, and these guys didn't travel and they didn't play in these first 2 games. That being at home, you have 2 home preseason games. It would make sense to have your work be done here. You could also argue that it makes sense to have your work done in the Peacock game, which is going to be on in Milwaukee on Monday. But for the sake of simplicity and the sake of traveling and managing how much wear and tear goes into your stars after a short off season, I think that they're going to play at least some of their guys in this game. And I think that obviously you'd expect, maybe a AJ Mitchell and a Brandon Carlson back, because those 2 guys have what's been detailed from Mark is very minor injuries. So these off days can help them get back onto the floor. But I think that you'll see maybe at least one of Shea or Chet, maybe both. But it would just make too much sense to have them play at home on Thursday night against the Hornets.
If the Thunder came to you and they said, hey, we don't really care about preseason, we're going to let you tell us one player that has to be on the court for the Hornets game, a guy that you just want to see how he looks in preseason, who would it be?
It would be Chet Holmgren, not because he's going to prove anything or that we're really going to learn anything new about him. But I go back to his media day answer about how he said, in the offseason, a lot of players take that opportunity to do what they can't do lifestyle wise in the regular season, but he uses the offseason to do what he can't do basketball wise in the regular season. Well, the preseason is another environment where you can just explore, baby. You can do whatever you want on the floor. So what does he want to see from his offseason work try to translate to an NBA setting? Can we see him just go all in on playing off the catch and trying to get to the rim and trying to tighten up his handle and create his own shot? Like, I think that he'd have the right approach to preseason basketball. So I would be really interested to see him play.
Was that a preseason game last year where like we saw his new shot, or he was doing like?
He was warming up preseason last year and warming up, and he was going through a specific type of workout where you purposefully exaggerate. It was in San Antonio, how slow your form is, and really see every part of your form. There's a video taken of it, and people thought that was this brand new jump shot. It was like he had to explain on Twitter, no, you clowns. This is a workout routine that the Thunder have him do. So yeah, I mean, even seeing him warm up is a big deal for Chet Holmgren still.
God, it feels like so long ago. That was
it was over a year ago.
They won the championship, and I remember everyone freaking out about that. Alarm bells were going off. Oh my gosh, this shot looks so bad. It's going to be a line drive, which, hey, it was for some of the season. Sure. So it would be nice to see if he's done anything to his shot. Maybe he needs to go to the Lou Dort Moonball School of three-point shooting just to get a little bit more arc on it.
Yeah, workout with Dirk's going to be in town, I imagine, for this new media job he has with Amazon. So, I mean, have Dirk, whenever he comes to town for the pre- and post-game shows, help you out with the arc.
Now, I think that's enough on preseason, on 2 preseason games. I agree.
That was maybe too much.
Honestly, 47 minutes. Shout out to us. I did want to ask you, since I don't know when you're going to be on the show again, if you have any strong opinions about the upcoming season, things that you've been thinking about. Maybe it's a player that you're super confident in. Maybe it's a team that you're super confident in, or the opposite, a team that you feel like you're going against consensus on. Are there any ones that would fit the bill for that?
I think that AJ Mitchell at the end of the season will be a top 8 rotational player for this team.
Top 8. Okay, so let's list them off. So we got Shea, Dub, Chet, Dort, Caruso, Hartenstein. I'm at 6.
Yeah.
And then
I think that you go to Mitchell.
Oh, next.
I think that he's in the top 8. He's Mitchell, and then the 8th is like whichever matchup of Wiggins / Joe you want to put in there. But I think that AJ Mitchell is going to be right there at the end of the year.
Hey, well, if you're willing with that bold prediction, let's bump it up to top 7. Why not?
Let's do it. Top 7 player.
Because I do believe, I mean, even watching these couple of preseason games, like, they need guys who put pressure on the defense offensively. You mentioned like Kaysen and driving to the rim. Like, they need guys doing that more often, because I do feel like when this team got stagnant, there was just a lot of standing around. And because teams were packing the paint, as you mentioned with Barnhizer, like the cutting game wasn't as obvious as it could be. And so you just need guys who can pressure the defense. And I do think that AJ has that potential. And I think he is like one of the players I am most excited to watch, just because like the theoretical idea of AJ, where he can be this like 2-way guard who can run a little offense. He can kind of just do a little bit of everything, it feels like. And now maybe I've just built him up in my mind, because honestly, we've seen like 500 minutes of him, and then some, a couple minutes in the NBA finals.
He wasn't scared though in the finals.
That's true. He wasn't scared. He was not scared. And then the summer league games where he looks great. But I just every time I come away from a watching an AJ Mitchell game, I'm just like, man, this guy he kind of doesn't like Bill Simmons always talks about like taking things off the table. He kind of like doesn't take anything off the table when he's on the court. He's just good enough at everything. And it feels like there's some upside with some of his skills. So I agree with you there. What about any non-Thunder beliefs league-wide?
Well, I do have a bet with Derek Parker that the 76ers will have more wins than the Hornets, but I don't think that that's necessarily.
And you're on the Sixers side?
I'm on the Sixers side.
Okay, I think I would be on your side too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where Derek Parker was getting off on the Hornets, but I don't think it's happening anymore for him. On just the general NBA side of things, you know that I'm still a Jalen Green guy.
Yeah, what's that about? Have you?
He's just my archetype of player, man. I love.
What is that archetype? What is the archetype?
Bucket getters, man. They can create their own shot. They can get downhill. I like a aura. I like.
They can shoot 33% on high volume from three.
No Shingun now to clog things up. I think that he can go 25 and an efficient 25 at that per game. But I'm in on this Lakers team. And I shouldn't be. I know I shouldn't be, but I'm in on them. I think that Marcus Smart will have a career best from three. I think that DeAndre Ayton has found his pairing with Luka Doncic, and if it doesn't work with Luka, it's never going to work. And so I just believe that this Lakers team can be top 4 in the West and can be a tough out. I don't know if that's a hot take, but I think that when I'm looking at the West. I think that Denver's the only team that can beat the Thunder in a series. Like if they lost to Denver, it wouldn't faze me at all if they lost a series to Denver. I don't think that anyone else can beat the Thunder in a series. So now I go to like, well, who can shave some games off the Thunder? I think that the Lakers could make this a 6-game series with the Thunder. And so I don't have a lot of teams in that category that push the Thunder to 6-7 games. And so I do think the Lakers are one of them.
That's interesting. I haven't thought about it. I don't know if I would put. I mean, the first teams that come to mind would be like the Clippers, healthy. Yeah. I could see them taking some games off. Houston, if they figure. I mean, we'll see what happens with their point guard situation by the end of the season. But they theoretically would have the defensive talent to just beat the Thunder in like some 91-89 games. But the Lakers, okay. I mean, I have felt like Luka's odds for end of season awards have been a little too low. Because it just feels like we're finally setting up, and we do this every year, like this is the Luka MVP year. But I do feel like of all those years, this year feels the most real, based on everything we've seen from him in the offseason, and adding just a few normal guys, as you mentioned, with DeAndre Ayton and Marcus Smart. Actually, I don't know if I'd call them normal, but like they're clearly NBA rotation players. I mean, I hope Marcus Smart is
Jake LaRavia?
Jake LaRavia.
Optionality?
Another guy, yeah. So I'm not against it. There are definitely teams in the West that I'm more worried about. I mean, me and Andrew were doing our over-unders, and I was like kind of into the Grizz up until like 2 weeks ago when I guess like clockwork, they just start falling apart.
Yeah, the floodgates opened.
In this last week, we get Ja now is week to week with an ankle sprain. I mean, they legitimately might start the season. I'm trying to think what their starting lineup would be. It would be like Scottie Pippen Jr., Santi Aldama will be available. Jalen Wells. Okay, so that's 3 guys. And then they just got to find 2 other spots because they have so many guys injured. Yeah, I'm a little worried about them having like a season from hell. But you mentioned the Sixers, and the reason why I think you were right to take the Sixers over the Hornets is the pick protections. I do think it matters that those protections have dropped from top 7 to top 4. I think that makes it way harder for Philly to pivot at some point this season. And I just don't think they're in a position, especially their front office, to do that 2 years in a row. I think they're going to have to try to win games, even if the season does turn against them, which it feels like it already kind of is with Paul George being hurt, Jared McCain getting hurt again, still having no idea about Embiid. But I feel like they're going to have to try to make it work this season in a way where last season they were able to pivot kind of late and still have a pretty good chance of keeping their pick, which they didn't end up doing, obviously. So I like that. I like that pick. On the flip side, like for the Hornets, like if things go bad for them, like, yeah, just tank again. Like, who cares? Like,
you should pull a plug. And that's my problem with the Sixers, though, is they're my Jalen Green only in team form. This will be the first season. I'm going to give you some breaking news on Down the Dunk. This will be my first season since May of 2020 when I took over Locked On Thunder that I'm not going to predict the Sixers to be in the top 3 of the East. And I've been attached to this team. I love this team. I love their theme song and fight song after every win. I love everything about this team. They've bitten me before, but I can't stop falling for them. Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, my guys, Joel Embiid, Rock Chalk. You have Nick Nurse, Paul George still hanging around, I feel confident though in my bet with Derek about the Sixers. Was that a hot take to say that the Thunder will not lose with what we know right now? Yeah. And of course, health permitting, the Thunder will not lose to anybody not named Denver in the postseason. Is that a hot take?
Yeah. Assuming health, I would. I mean, it would be a huge disappointment. Now, on the flip side, that is basically what has happened the last 7 years: is teams losing, or former champions, defending champions, losing to teams that you wouldn't expect them to lose to, or losing in ways that you wouldn't expect, like Denver going up by 20 in Game 7 at home to the Wolves and then losing that game. I'm very hopeful that we don't get a crushing blow like that at the end of the season. Like, if we're going to lose to Denver, I want it to be 7 games. I want it to come down to the end, and it just is clear that Denver's just the better team this season. That I'm fine with. I mean, it would be terrible, to be clear, but I just I like losing to the Lakers in like the second round. That would kill me, or losing, God forbid, to the Rockets. I mean, that would
even
set
the Clippers. Like, there's been a lot of needle poking
Clippers.
To the Clippers from OKC. If you lost the series to them,
I know we kind of need to chill out on that. Like, we've won, okay? We've won. We don't need to, because they've got a lot of bad karma. And what if it all turns?
They're due. They're due for good karma eventually.
They are kind of due. Okay, with our last few minutes, please just explain to me, like, so you genuinely like Jalen Green?
Oh yeah, I really like Jalen Green as a player. I just listen to put into perspective. I like Jalen Green. I like Scoot Henderson. I like Jeremiah Fears. Like, I fall for these types.
Oh no.
Every time. I can't stop myself. I have VJ Edgecombe. I can't stop myself from falling for the Jalen Greens of the world. And I am concerned that their whole plan is like, hey, let's just have one of the two, Green or Booker, become point guards. But I do believe that he can still be an effective scorer. And part of this is just going down with the ship, because on his draft profile and projection for Locked On Thunder, I said that he would be a 2-time scoring champion at least as a scorer. And he's not going to do that anymore. But at least make it salvageable for me, Jalen Green.
You just had to put the at least in there.
Yeah,
that's
at least really
you want to say more than 2.
Yeah, see, that's like the AJ Mitchell crushing it with top 8 when I really mean 7. Crushing it with top 8 to give you some room on the back end. That was tough.
I mean, he's averaged 22 in a season.
Yeah. All I need is 25 points per game on decent efficiency.
Well, I mean, one thing I will say, and this goes for Şengün too, is like, remember the talk about both of those guys defensively coming into, I mean, not just coming into the league, but also through their rookie season, through their second seasons. And it felt like they were just both going to be lost defensively. I mean, I can't tell you how many Thunder fans I was defending Şengün against because they were calling him Enes Kanter 2.0. And I was like, you have to believe me, he is not Enes Kanter 2.0. And I don't think either of them are like amazing defenders, but they've clearly shown in this league that they can be a part of a very good defense, and they can be good enough. And I think that was less surprising for Şengün to me than it was for Jalen Green, just because of his physical limitations. Like, he's just so skinny. I just worried, is this guy ever going to be able to hold up defensively? And I don't think he's some amazing defender or anything, but the fact that he's not like a Trae Young level defender, and I know that people say Trae Young got better last season, but like, you know what I'm saying, like a Dame Lillard level defender. I do think he is better than that, or can be better than that. And honestly, that was kind of the story with Devin Booker through the early part of his career. And then he became a guy.
Am I selling you on Jalen Green right now?
No,
Am I selling you on Green Island? We have plenty of room.
I'm being nice to the guests, and I'm trying to see things through your twisted mind.
What would Jalen Green need to do to get you a plot of land on Green Island?
okay, for starters, I need him to shoot the ball. Like he's kind of got this Shaden Sharp thing where like he shoots it. He's a theoretical shooter. I need him to shoot like 38% from three as a starter. And last year he was at 35% on 8 threes a game. Great volume. 35 is like fine, and it was a career high. But I feel like for him to be this player that you imagine when you go to bed at night and you're dreaming about Jalen Green.
It's true. I often dream Jalen Green.
He's got to shoot like 38% from three.
Okay. I'll be tracking this all season long. It's like the Mendoza line in baseball. I want to get to the Alex Speers line for Jalen Green.
And then, like, if the Suns aren't a bottom 5 defense, which I think there's a decent chance they won't be, because like they added Dylan Brooks. I'm assuming Ryan Dunn's going to get more play. They bolstered their center rotation. Like I don't want this Suns for me to like believe in Jalen Green. Like if he's scoring and they're like one of the worst defenses in the league, and all of a sudden like all those nice things I just said about him, turns out that was just more Ime Udoka like finding a way to strategize around Jalen Green, and all that gets exposed in Phoenix, that would upset me too. So I need a little bit on that end as well.
Okay. Challenge accepted. I think he's going to do it.
Really?
We need to revisit this.
So are you high on the Suns at all?
No, I think that the Suns are I think that they can be, a play-in team that is in the play-in picture up until the All-Star break. And then after the All-Star break, it becomes pretty clear they're not going to make the play-in. So I think that that's kind of their range for this year. I don't have them in the play-in. I don't have them making the postseason. But I also don't have them being the worst team of all time, which is capable of happening for like Utah and teams like that. I think that Brooklyn's going to be just horrendously bad. I think Brooklyn's going to be the worst team we've ever seen. I hate every single player on Brooklyn's roster.
I love that. I feel the same way. Like they were doing, Zach Lowe did his most like confusing teams, and I'm not confused by Brooklyn, but I do want to see what it looks like, because there is this like train wreck quality to what they've got going that I just want to see.
I'm confused by the fact that how did you make 5 picks and I hate all of them? Like how did you make 5 picks and I'm just like all these guys suck.
Yeah, you could have taken them in any order too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been very confusing. Okay, before we go, you're going down to the Paycom Center tomorrow. Have you gotten any inside information on any new things fans should check out at the Paycom Center? Any new eateries, perhaps?
To my knowledge, there are a lot of new eateries. I think that there's a new little barbecue joint in the Paycom Center. If you've ever had a hunkering for a barbecue and watching some hoops.
Now, did you say a hunkering?
What's the real word? Hankering?
It's a hankering.
Oh, okay. Well, hankering, honkering, dickory dock, you can get you some barbecue. I often that's the Latin in me. I often just kind of interchange words and get close enough. That's our big thing in Latin. Just get you close enough to see the picture, and you'll figure it out from there. But a hankering for some barbecue, you can go check that out. And other than that, though, I don't think that anything's different about the current Paycom Center. There seemed to be some progress on the new Paycom Center, but we're still going to be awaiting where they're going to put that precious banner, what the banner's going to look like.
That's true.
I'm excited for that.
God, I get so wrapped up in the preseason, I forget that they're
going to raise a banner.
They're going to raise a banner in a few weeks.
Yeah, they got rings to hand out. Kevin Durant's not going to be mad, sad, or upset. He's going to be a robot. He's going to have no emotions on banner night.
Yeah, he will definitely not have any emotions. Okay, Rylan, tell people where they can find you, what you're going to be up to this season, because I know you got some new stuff, so let them know.
Yeah, you can check out Lockdown Thunder. That's Monday through Friday and after every single game. And on Mondays and Thursdays, 2 p.m., me and Derek Parker are Lockdown Thunder live for an hour at 2 p.m. Central Time over on YouTube. And then OKC Dream Team, Thunder on SI, Lockdown NBA game nights on Saturday nights, recapping all the games in the NBA on the Lockdown NBA feed. So a lot going on, but I always have time for Down to Dunk. It is incredible to be here talking with Alex Spears. So I appreciate you letting me hop on. I appreciate Andrew's Airbnb. Andy Airbnb is not having a great time with the internet, so let me kind of pinch hit for him. So hopefully his Airbnb is still out on Friday, maybe.
Yeah, maybe he brought his it sounds like he brought his Wi-Fi from home to the Airbnb.
A lot of trouble with that thing.
And shout out Derek Parker. I mean, he's been I think he started it last year, his YouTube channel, doing like draft breakdowns. So people should, I'm assuming he's going to keep that up this season. So people should definitely check that out as well. So you heard where to find him. Go check out Rylan, Locked on Thunder. And it is the show with Derek, that's just Locked on Thunder live.
It'll still be on the Locked on Thunder feed. Same feeds as always. We're just doing that in addition to 5 days a week and after every game, because I don't do enough podcasts already. We're doing more podcasts.
Man, you're just gonna have to like tape that mic to you. It's anywhere you go, so you can do emergency pods whenever you. Do you have a little carrying case for your mic so you can pod anywhere at a moment's notice?
Yeah, I have a different setup for on the road. It's actually a just a handheld microphone with a USB-C connection. I can just whip out and pod if there's ever some breaking news, and we'll do some emergency pods.
Nice. Okay, and as for Down to Dunk, I'm assuming we'll be back on Friday, so you can listen to the Fry Pod then. And we got they'll have a preseason game to talk about against the Charlotte Hornets, and then I thought the season started like mid-October, but it's October 21st, so we've still got like 2 weeks until the season starts. So rest up, enjoy the preseason basketball, and we'll talk to you again soon.